Ban me off kick. I'm on YouTube.
Khalid Ismail, aka Johnny Somali, had a disastrous day in court today where pretty much everything that could go wrong went wrong.
Things like last time, things went awful for Johnny. This time it went terrible. He even got humiliated in court. I mean, it was really bad from the start.
Who would have thought? Johnny Somali, the same guy who once ridiculed the courtroom, parading in a MAGA hat with smug confidence in front of the camera, now stood with his head lowered, trembling as he admitted guilt in a South Korean court. Johnny, quick interview. The cocky replies were gone. The sly smirks had vanished. Instead, Johnny simply nodded, accepting the charges as though every accusation weighed down the inflated ego he once carried so proudly. So what reduced this arrogant streamer to a humbled defendant? Witnesses at the trial described a dramatic shift in his behavior. Johnny was oddly quiet, obedient, and focused, only speaking on rare occasions, a striking contrast to the loud, abrasive character his streams were known for. Johnny Somali isn't the same figure anymore. The swagger and self-confidence have dissolved, replaced with visible nerves as he faces the harsh punishments awaiting him from the South Korean court. But Johnny really did feel different this time. You know what I mean? In earlier trials, he looked carefree, almost playful. This time, he carried himself with a heavy seriousness. Maybe he's finally worn out from being here. I don't know. It makes you wonder, what happened during his time trapped in South Korea? Is this true remorse? Or just a carefully planned retreat to avoid a sentence that could lock him away for as long as 31 years? Stick with me as we break down the shocking events that turned Johnny Somali from a brash streamer into a defendant facing trial. And hey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if this story has you hooked. Ramsey Khalid, male, better recognized by his infamous online name Johnny Somali, is an American streamer who built his reputation on Kick, YouTube, and Twitch. He calls himself an IRL streamer, someone who broadcasts raw, unedited slices of daily life, no matter where in the world he is. But Johnny's streams were never about scenic views or cultural appreciation. His content thrived on provocation, fueled by outrage, and chased the kind of moments that stirred anger, all for a spike in views. After being deported from places like Japan and Israel because of his disruptive behavior, Johnny turned his attention to South Korea. But this time, his antics didn't just cause trouble, they escalated into chaos that spun completely out of control. In October 2024, inside a Seoul convenience store, Johnny Somali went live on Kick. He blasted loud music, spilled instant noodles across a table on purpose, and clashed with an employee who warned him against drinking alcohol inside. And that was only the beginning. Soon after, he took his camera to a public square, kissing and dancing provocatively beside the Statue of Peace, a monument dedicated to Korean victims forced into sexual slavery during Japan's wartime occupation. The media tore into him, calling it unbelievably reckless, because it struck at one of Korea's most painful historical wounds. From that point on, South Korean police began closely monitoring the American streamer. The breaking point came with a series of outrageous acts: blasting songs praising Kim Jong-un on a bus, carrying a bag of rotten fish to harass people on the street, and spewing vulgar rants on the subway. Even worse, he was accused of making and spreading deepfake sexual videos, one of which targeted a popular Korean streamer known as Bong Bong. What started as cheap stunts for attention spiraled into outright attacks on South Korean society, leading to criminal charges that quickly put Johnny in serious legal trouble. The police opened an investigation. A travel ban kept him from leaving the country. Soon enough, he was dragged into repeated court appearances. Public anger erupted. Outraged citizens confronted him in the streets, and he was attacked at least 3 times. The most shocking moment? A knockout punch from a former South Korean Navy SEAL. The clip of Johnny collapsing hit social media like a storm, making him a worldwide laughingstock. Meanwhile, the ex-soldier, fined for the assault, was celebrated by many as a hero who delivered justice for the people. Somali, say something. By July 2025, a petition demanding harsh punishment was sent to the government, urging them to make an example of Johnny and discourage others from copying his behavior. Professor Seo Duck of Sunshin University voiced the same concern, stressing that without strict consequences, blatant disrespect for Korea's culture and laws would only continue. And eventually, the day came when Johnny Somali had to stand before the court once again. On March 7, 2025, the Seoul courtroom buzzed with anticipation, all eyes fixed on Johnny as he walked in. The judge checked the clock. He was an hour late, but even that wasn't the peak of Johnny's arrogance. He strolled in wearing a bright red Make America Great Again cap, hands shoved in his pockets, and responded to the judge with defiance, showing not the slightest hint of regret. Yet, just 5 months later, the name Johnny Somali returned to the spotlight in court, but the figure who appeared there looked and acted like a completely different person. At the August 13th trial, he seemed almost unrecognizable. Surrounded by streamers firing off questions as he approached the courthouse, Johnny didn't crack a smile or offer a word. No smirks, no taunts, none of the loud defiance people once expected from him. He still showed up late, though only by a few minutes this time. Dressed in a black suit with neatly cut hair, he entered the courtroom looking drained and subdued. The trademark MAGA cap? Gone. The cocky glare? Nowhere to be seen. All that remained was the tired, heavy expression of a man weighed down by reality. 6 guilty charges, yes, 6, have now been confirmed. 4 counts of obstruction of business and 2 under the Minor Crimes Act. Together, they paint a picture of a repeat offender, and each conviction piles on more potential prison time. At this stage, the maximum stands at 12 years. According to multiple sources, including commentary from YouTuber Legal Mindset, a lawyer closely tracking the case, Johnny admitted guilt to 6 of the 8 charges brought against him. While the exact breakdown hasn't been fully released, prior reports suggest the charges are among the most severe he has ever faced. They include 4 obstruction of business charges tied to incidents like disrupting a store, blasting offensive sounds, and harassing locals. There's also 1 charge under the Special Act on the punishment of sexual crimes linked to distributing deepfake explicit content of streamer Bong Bong, and 1 charge under the Child Welfare Act. As for the 2 charges Johnny did not admit guilt to, details remain hidden. Speculation points to more extreme allegations, possibly involving threats to spread HIV, pro-North Korea remarks, or even violations of anti-terrorism laws. The contrast between his March and August court appearances is staggering. Earlier this year, he was dealing with what many considered minor disruptions, like the convenience store stunt. Now he faces a mountain of 8 charges, including sexual crimes and child welfare violations. If found guilty across the board, Johnny could be staring at a sentence ranging anywhere from 20 to 31 years. That looming reality forced him into a dramatic change. Out went the arrogance, in came the silence. His decision to admit guilt to 6 charges shows he knows the walls are closing in. Even his lawyer seemed overwhelmed. In court, he appeared nervous, face flushed, stumbling over words, and struggling to present any strong defense. Every rebuttal he attempted against the deepfake allegations was cut down by the prosecutor, whose arguments landed cleanly and effectively. The judge dismissed most of the defense's motions outright, leaving the lawyer looking unprepared and outmatched. Still, it's unfair to pin this entirely on the lawyer. The truth is, Johnny himself left behind a trail of undeniable evidence. His entire online career was built on chaos and provocation, with every reckless moment streamed live for the world to see. That footage became the prosecution's strongest weapon. Even the sharpest lawyer would have struggled to fight against proof that Johnny himself had broadcast. In reality, his trial feels less like a courtroom showdown and more like the unraveling of a tragic comedy. Every scene documented and staged by Johnny long before the judge ever weighed in. The defense strategy to outright deny and challenge every charge collapsed quickly against South Korea's legal system. Under relentless pressure, Johnny shifted gears, trading defiance for reluctant cooperation. His guilty pleas were the clearest sign yet of his desperation. The breaking point came not from lawyers, but from an unexpected witness, a Lade World employee who testified that Johnny repeatedly ignored warnings to stop blasting offensive sounds in public. Their testimony effectively sealed the case, leaving Johnny with nowhere to run. adding fuel to the fire, prosecutors have now requested key witnesses for the October trial, including streamer Bong Bong. If these individuals take the stand, the outcome could shatter what little hope Johnny has left, destroying his career and condemning him to decades in prison. Gone are the days when Johnny thrived off attention. He no longer stops for interviews, smiles at cameras, or heckles the public. He avoids interactions, slipping into cars quickly to dodge streamers and journalists. It's clear he finally realizes the weight of what he's facing. Months stuck in South Korea under a travel ban have left him visibly drained, mentally and physically. The possibility of spending 30 years behind bars looms ahead, while angry citizens hurl curses and fists his way in the streets. Even the boldest personalities eventually hit a breaking point, and for Johnny, that moment seems to have arrived. So desperate is he that reports even surfaced of him considering a reckless escape by boat. A laughable, almost pitiful plan that underscores his panic. But where could he run? Back in the US, would anyone embrace him after his trail of chaos and infamy? It calls to mind the case of YouTuber Vitaly, who begged for help when detained abroad only to learn the hard truth. No government protects those who deliberately provoke and flout laws. Johnny is no different. The reality he faces now isn't the fault of others. It's the natural consequence of his own arrogance and poor choices. His downfall isn't society's doing, it's his own. For that reason, the potential 31-year sentence hanging over his head isn't just a scare tactic. It could very well be his future. If convicted, Johnny's streaming career will end in a prison cell, his spotlight traded for cold concrete walls. From mocking cultures and harassing locals to deepfake scandals and sexual crime allegations, Johnny Somali has transformed into one of South Korea's most vilified figures. Ahead lies not fame, but the grim certainty of prison. Now everything depends on the court's final verdict. Johnny Somali's story serves as a harsh lesson. Fame built on shock value and disregard for others cannot last. What he reaps today isn't admiration, but outrage, isolation, and the very real risk of losing his freedom for decades. It's also a wake-up call to anyone chasing clout through reckless stunts. Free speech is not immunity from accountability. Johnny has learned that lesson in the hardest way possible. What do you think about this scandal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for updates as the October trial approaches.